Hi. So today we are talking about optimizing your LinkedIn profile. It will be a fairly lengthy video, and I also have an attachment for you afterwards, which has got the key points on that, and you can tick them off as you go through doing it. But I want to talk you through it so that you've got a good sense of what you need to do and also why you need to do certain things. Now, LinkedIn nowadays is probably one of the, if not the most powerful tool in your arsenal when you are out there seeking something new. And broader than that, also just in terms of building your professional network. Because LinkedIn is not a job board as such, with an updated profile on LinkedIn, it's not like you are advertising to the market that you are looking for something new. It is actually just a space in which professionals connect. Of course, because LinkedIn is so personable, and in these days of social media, clients have got the opportunity to actually meet you in a way before you go through for an interview or discussion with them. And having that opportunity to get a sense of who you are, what you look like, it just makes it much easier for them to relate to you when they do meet you and to see if they do want to meet with you. So it's important that you remember that a sloppy LinkedIn profile is going to already make a statement about who you are in the professional environment and in the workspace. So a sloppy profile will indicate that you are potentially a sloppy worker and that you don't respect these kind of platforms, because you don't need to be on LinkedIn, but if you are going to be on there, it's important that you respect that platform and present yourself well on that. You also want to remain aware of the fact that whatever comments you post there, the way that spelling and grammar or anything else is used on LinkedIn, and these are some of the things we will talk through as we go through all of the different sections on LinkedIn. If those aren't well done, it sends a message. And that's why you want to take the time to optimize your profile as much as you can. It's also important to mention here that LinkedIn has got a very complex algorithm. It's well known for that, and they do change it from time to time. So the things that I'm going to be talking you through are all essential to get you to rank higher in LinkedIn searches. And when they do change it and we get new information, obviously we can update, and there are other things that you can add. But for the moment, this should have you fairly well covered. So I'm going to be using my profile and talk you through that. That's the easiest than exposing anyone else on their profile. And we'll talk through the different sections. Obviously, it will look the same as when you go into optimize yours. And there are a few things then, obviously, which I won't be able to show you because you can only do that as a visitor onto someone else's profile. But for our purposes here, this will be absolutely sufficient. So here we are starting with my LinkedIn profile. Now, the first thing you want to do when editing your profile, and obviously every time you click on that little pencil there, it gives you the option to edit that section. This background banner that you have here needs to say something that is professional and suitable for this platform and for this environment. So things that you don't want on there, and that goes also for your personal photograph, is you would not want your hunting trophies or passing the finish line for the comrades, or your fishing trophies or the biggest fish you've ever caught or anything like that on there. You want to keep it professional and in keeping with career more so than personal hobbies. There is a place for that, and Facebook is much more suitable for that, but LinkedIn is not the platform to voice your opinion and display your personal interests so much, where it's not career related or professional related. So it's very easy for you to do that. Obviously, there are many places where you can draw pictures from, but one of the easiest ways to go about it would be to subscribe to canva.com, canva.com. And you can just do a free subscription there. They have got templates already which you can use. Look for the LinkedIn banner, go to photographs, find something that would be suitable, or upload your own photograph, and then you can export it and come and load it here as your background picture for your LinkedIn profile. The next thing you want to do, and this is very important, to have a proper professional photograph here. Don't do something that you take on your phone, no selfies, nothing that's done with your webcam. You can see, even just if you compare that photograph of mine, which was taken with a good camera and professionally taken, versus what I look like here today, there is a difference between that. That looks much better, crisper, cleaner, and more professional. So take the trouble to get someone to take a proper photograph. Don't load up something from a party, or you at the bar, or your friend's arm around your neck and you half edited them out. It just looks sloppy and unprofessional. It's also important that you do include a profile photo, because it's part of those things that make you rank higher in the LinkedIn algorithm when searches do happen. And you want to make sure that when you have loaded up your photographs, I'm going to take you there to show you, when you're editing the section and you're editing the photograph, you have got the option to turn the visibility of the photograph to public. And you want to have it public. It should be visible for people to see. You don't want it just for your network, and you don't want it just for your connection. So make sure you set that to public. And as you can see, you've got the option here to click on it to move around the photograph to get it to sit sort of in the right position for the purposes here. So you can work with it a little bit around there. Then when you have that's it. Let's discard that. Okay. So that's about the photograph and your background. The next thing you want to look at is to have your name clear there, name and surname, and the name that people would generally know you by. Again, part of respecting the professional environment, you don't want just a name there or anything else that looks sloppy there, and you don't need all your full 5 names or 3 names that you were given there either. The next thing that you are wanting to put some thought into and spend some time thinking about how you're going to indicate it is this headline section. Now, the headline section does not need to be your current job title. You want to use the headline section on the one hand to indicate your key value proposition that you have for a client. So it would be a combination of your skills areas and then the things that you want to stretch or grow into. And it would also have details on specific achievements or value adds that you can bring into the environment. So, I'm looking here at my notes, for example, if you put down the director, for example, if I just put down here director, well, director of what, in what space, what does it mean? And, there are directors of major companies and there are directors of smaller companies like mine. So it must be more explanatory than that. That's why I've got executive search, dash headhunter, dash I recruit mining's most wanted top talent, dash women in mining specialists. So all of those are descriptive terms that are relevant to what I do. It explains the industry that I'm in, and it explains the value add that I bring to my area of expertise. So, for example, if you are a general manager in the mining space, you don't just want to put down the GM or general manager. You actually want to do something like general manager mining, dash opencast expert, dash greenfield projects champion. Or if you are a GCC qualified engineer, GCC project engineer, dash trackless mining expert, dash award-winning reliability engineer. So you understand what I'm after: descriptive, industry, current expertise, and also where you are aiming to go to. So those value adds, or if there's something that's a key, clear, and easy achievement, could be an award-winning mining specialist or something like that, that you can obviously substantiate. And that's much more powerful. Also, nowadays, a lot of the actual job titles become quite fuzzy, and it's difficult to know what someone really does. So you want to use that section to make it very clear what you do, and obviously go with terminology that will be clear to your industry and people who would look at your profile. You don't want to go with something that's too fuzzy and too general, or that doesn't really speak clearly into what you do. And once you have got that ready, then you can look at this section underneath you. So you're the only one who will see this. And you've got the option here to indicate that you are open to job opportunities. You never, never, never want to put looking for work in the market, open to opportunities in this top headline section. This section should be part of the details that bring your value add and your skills to the market, not your desperation in looking for a new job, because that really is what it looks like when you have got indicated they're looking for a job, open to opportunities. When you click on this section, and I'm going to take you there, it gives you the option then to show what kind of work you are open to. So you can add some titles that would be relevant and pertinent to your areas of expertise, where you want to work, other locations that are options, your availability, the kind of job types that you are open for. And don't just click everything. Think about it. I mean, if you're an experienced hire, you certainly don't want to go for an internship, but you might be open to look at contract work, remote work, full-time work. And then in this section where you can show that you are open to opportunities, if you click on this one, open to work photo frame, then it becomes very public. It's on your photo frame there. So I would not really recommend that. I would rather go with the share with recruiters only section so that it's not blaringly glazing, to people that you are desperately looking for something new in the market. So that's how you want to control that area. The next section that's going to take some work from you is the About section. Now, the About section is a fairly lengthy section. You've got a lot of characters that you can work with there. And that really is the prime area where you want to give an overview and an account of what you can bring to the market and what your value add is. Now, remember, with LinkedIn being part of your presentation to the market, of your value add, and thinking of that almost like you are the product. And when recruiters or hiring managers look at your profile, this is the product that you are marketing. So take yourself out of it in the way that you look at yourself from the outside and think, if I was a hiring manager or if I was a senior recruiter, what would I be looking for on a profile? What would get me to sit up and think, sure, maybe I should talk to this person? So think of it in that way. You are the product that you are marketing to the market here. Um, and when you approach your About section in that way, you can then see when you start with it, it's really only the first three lines and not even a complete third line that shows up in the About section on first glance. So you need to think about what you are going to put in those lines. It needs to be something that would catch the attention of the reader and that would want them to then click and expand that section to read more. So you don't just want to use vanilla phrases. You actually want to use that with key achievements or something that will stand out in terms of your value add, and make it measurable, make it definite, make it something that they can relate to. So real key successes. If you say something like, I'm an award-winning financial analyst, well, it's still very fuzzy, because what award did you win? When did you win it? If it was won in 1987, well, no, it doesn't actually speak loudly anymore. So you want it to be specific, you want it to be recent, and you want it to be very relevant to what you are doing now and what you are wanting to continue to do in the market. So you can see, for example, in my industry, something like this, where there are very definite statistics from studies that's been done about the amount of mishires or hires that really didn't work out well within an 18-month period from newly appointed people at every level in the organization, whether it be executive level, whether it be managerial level, or just part of the overall teams within a working space. Those are shocking statistics. So that kind of a thing would get someone to sit and think, my goodness, if that's there, what's the solution to this? And so they are going to read further. How do we approach it? What do we do about it? When you have done that, the next thing you need to think of when you are laying out this section is that any place where you write copy for the public view, it's not a doctoral thesis. So you want to aim your level of writing, although there will be more complicated words in it, but generally the most successful copywriters aim their level of writing at grade 4 or grade 5 level. So understand what I'm saying here. It needs to be simple. It needs to be not overly long sentences. You need a lot of white space in between so that the eye can catch one sentence or two sentences, jump to the next, read that, scan through the next sentences. If you've got long paragraphs, what people do is they start reading and then they jump maybe 3 lines down and then they jump again, and they don't really read properly what you are saying, because they really want to be able at first glance to catch what you are saying, and especially so in social media, because it's not an academic writing this. So you want to make sure that your sentences are short and easy to read, that the details are very specific and measurable, that there is a lot of white space in between none of your paragraphs, even if it is almost counterintuitive if you are used to writing proper documents. You want to have your paragraphs maximum 2 to 3 lines so that the eye can jump from there, and then it will jump to the next one, will quickly read that, it will jump to the next one, and you'll get your point across much more effectively than if you use lengthy paragraphs there, because people don't want to read through it on these type of platforms. Um, and you will then use this first of all to indicate key successes, and again those must be measurable. We want numbers and quantities and periods and things like that on there. So it must be from that perspective of what can I do for you. It mustn't be fuzzy again, things like I'm a motivated, detail oriented professional. Well, what does that mean? Show me, prove it to me. It must be specific, and you must be able to support it with examples within this writing here. Um, and you want to make clear what you can do for them, the outcomes you deliver, and the problems that you help solve in the workspace. Let me repeat that for you. Your thinking should be, what can I do for you? The outcomes that I can deliver, and the problems I help solve in the workspace. If you approach it from those three questions, you are going to be able to put the right thing down there to make sense for someone who reads it. And you will base that on your current examples, which will then be translatable into where they are. Another thing that you need to remember, and this is going to be throughout your entire LinkedIn profile, is that LinkedIn works very strongly on Boolean or keyword search. So let's go back to, for example, a qualified chartered accountant. If you only put CASA on your profile and there's nowhere where you use the full word chartered accountant, and someone does a search on chartered accountant instead of on CASA, they're not going to pick up your profile. It's not going to come up in the search. Similarly, if you under your qualifications only indicate up to your BCom honors, or your CTA, and you never indicate that you have completed your CA qualification, not going to come up in searches. Now, if someone does a search and 100 profiles come up in that search, actually there's much more than that generally comes up, and you didn't have that indicated there, they are going to talk to the first 75 who actually did show that they are CAs. By that time, they have got their shortlist of 5 candidates to submit, and they're never going to talk to you, even though you might be a perfect fit for what they need. But you need to actually go and find out whether you've got the qualification that's needed, and it's not clearly indicated. You just make it much more difficult for them to find you and to approach you and to talk to you with that. So you want to make it easy for people to know how you're qualified, what you can do, and what your value add is. You also want to make sure that you include your contact details. So cell and email is preferable, or cell or email. Both are better, but make it easy for people to be able to get a hold of you and not overly difficult for them to do that. I'm going to also mention one last thing for you here. This last paragraph of mine is very long, and it really is not the best way to put it. I really have used it just for a listing of the kind of positions I've placed over the years and that I frequently place. And really that is more for the Boolean search purpose, that it comes up and that people, when they are looking for someone who's got expertise in those areas, that I will come up in those searches. But you generally want to avoid having these very lengthy paragraphs, and then you can see there's my contact details. You don't need to put something down like keen to know more, let's talk. That's relevant and pertinent to what I do, but you can really just put your contact details or say to get in touch, and you put that down there. The next section we are going to be looking at is this featured section. Now, I'm going to mention this in any case. Many of you might not actually use this because it does take some time and it takes some work to write LinkedIn articles, and that becomes your body of work on LinkedIn over time. So when you post on LinkedIn, and we will talk more about that in another session, but you've got the option to really just write a short LinkedIn post, which is in your general feed from your homepage, and you've got 1,300 characters to work with there. Or you can actually create an article on LinkedIn, which then delves in more depth into an area of expertise that you have. So the good thing about doing those is, as I said, it is proof of your body of work and your expertise in a certain area. And when someone is looking for someone with that kind of knowledge, or they look up your profile and they say, oh, wow, look at what he's written. And, it's properly laid out articles. It's already real life example of what you can bring and what you can do for them. So if you have got time, it's certainly worthwhile to work on that, but it does take more work and time to prepare those. And so over time, all these articles that you have written will then be featured here. You can select it for it to be featured here. So you will see I did a fairly lengthy article series here, about 4 articles on relationship flow in the workplace, working through everything from initially finding the right candidates, how you attract them with your employer value proposition, how you work through the process of recruiting them, what needs to be in place to attract those top performers, then right through to onboarding them, which needs to be done right, and then of course them becoming part of the furniture in the organization, a very valuable part of the furniture. So you can use that here, and again, the images that you use, all those things, you can go and get that from Canva. So a section to consider if you have got some time on hand and you have got some things to say that can form your body of work here. The next section, which is your dashboard, will only be visible to you. You can see I've got an all-star rating here because my LinkedIn profile is complete and I show up in searches. People view my profile, they view my posts, I come up in search appearances, so that you will be able to monitor for yourself how effective your profile is and whether the right kind of things are happening in it and people are looking at it. This next section is one you want to be and remain very aware of. In this section, it will show all activity going backwards for a long time of what you have actually posted on LinkedIn. So everything from comments that you've left, new posts, like I posted a new LinkedIn post here just 2 hours ago, and you can see there's my post and my thoughts on that with a good image, once again brought from Canva. And then so far there's been 680 views of it, and there's comments on it, and every comment that's been made on it will be visible to someone going into this year, and every comment that I have made on that. So with that in mind, you certainly do not want to use LinkedIn to rant and rave about employers, about companies, even about recruiters, even if they have made you very angry, because when people read that and you are very public with that kind of criticism, they are going to think, oh, looks like a bit of a wild card here, and there's no control in terms of them, how they work with people, and none of us are perfect, so there's always two sides to every story. So you want to keep this professional and not use it for personal opinions or very divisive kind of purposes. It's not going to stand you in good stead in the long run, because when employers look at that and they generally ask us senior recruiters and search professionals to also look at the social profile of a candidate, that when those kind of things are there, it makes you a little bit of a number two choice, not so sure about this candidate, because no company is perfect, no boss is perfect, no single individual that you ever work with is perfect. So you want to give some grace there, and you want to be very aware that what you do is going to be visible for people for a very long time to come, and could actually cause you to be rejected for a certain role. Um, so even things that you like here, you want to look at, if you've just liked something, it will come up, not just the things that you have commented on. So once again, choose what you like, choose what you comment on, and make sure when you do that it is spelled correctly and that it makes sense. You will see on all of these, I want to see if it's here. Yeah. So if you have made a mistake in anything that you posted on LinkedIn, when you click on these 3 little buttons there, you've got the option to edit it. So when you come back and you realize, oh, spelling error, I wrote too fast, you can actually edit the post, and you can edit your comment even, and just correct that spelling error. So it's very nifty to have, because I know with me many times, I write fast and then I don't realize, and I post before I've actually properly checked it. And you go back later and you realize, oh, you made a mistake on something. So a very good section to keep in mind, but one that you definitely want to be very careful about how you use it, and want to use it to your advantage. Then we get into the experience section. Now, on the experience section, once you have optimized your CV, a lot of the information that you have put on there will actually be copy and paste into this area here. Very important pointers here. You don't want to copy and paste a job spec ever. You don't want to do it in your CV. You don't want to do it on your LinkedIn profile. Apart from the fact that job descriptions are inaccurate because there's a lot of words on there and it really doesn't give the essence of what you do on a daily basis, it also doesn't talk into the scorecard or the real deliverables, and it gives no reflection of the actual value add. So it's an easy cop out, but it really doesn't do anything for you. And it's very obvious that it is a job description. Anyone who looks at those can see it's a job description. So, what you want to do is you want to start with your current title. And again, if that title is nondescript or unclear, rather replace it with something that would be more obvious and clear to your market in terms of what you actually do on a daily basis. So choose a title that would be more relevant. But that still speaks obviously into what you do. Company name, and then for your dates, you always want to give the year and the month that you started, as well as the year and the month that you ended. Then, when you get into the body here, you want to lead with your key successes once again. And I prefer using the word key successes as opposed to achievements or accomplishments. Those can sometimes sound a little bit arrogant. And so, if you think of the two or three key things that you've done that really was a value add, and you can give numbers and you can give quantities or you can give time periods there, that speaks loudly because it puts a picture around that achievement. It's the same kind of thing that you would use in your resume optimization. And so when you lead with those, it's the standout info that they see first. Oh, wow, he's done this. And it makes it clear what value add you can bring into their space. And then you want to have bullet points. So I didn't go with bullet points just because of the nature of what I do. And there were other things that were better to put in the way that I did it here. But generally for you in a work environment, you want to put down about 6 to 10 maximum bullet points, especially on your later experience, giving the essence of what you do and obviously making sure you've got your keywords included in that section of the main things that you do in the workspace. You also want to write at the top, like I've done it here, give a short description of what the organization or the employer does. Don't go and copy and paste off their website. Put it in your own words, but think it out properly and obviously make it applicable to the space, the team, or the environment that you were in for that organization. So if you are, for example, a mining specialist, but you have worked in one of the large multinational mining companies, and you are looking now to transition into a banking environment, but you've got no banking experience, but you are a strong financial analyst, and there could be some value add in some of these major projects that you have worked on to an employer in the banking space. When you give an overview of that company, the space, the kind of projects, and the fact that they are a multinational, someone can look at that and see the connection to the new roles that you are actually trying to get into. Whereas if you don't put that there and someone doesn't, for example, know the mining industry, then they won't necessarily understand the area and the suitability of where you come from to translate into their environment. So that's why you want to make sure that you give a short description there. But again, it shouldn't be paragraphs long. It should be 3 or 4 lines maximum. And then the bullet pointed details and your key successes at the top there. You also want to make sure if you have held various positions within the same organization that you list all of those. So you are going to chronologically go through them and make it clear how you have progressed within that company. If you are only in the same company, in the same position, or it looks like you've been in the same position for the past 20 years, it looks like you're really stagnated in your career and you're kind of just sitting there ticking time over. Whereas if you have progressed in your career and you have moved from this position to the next position to the next position, it again speaks about how successful you've been and what your value add is. Now, it is possible that you could sometimes have been in a certain position in the same company for a lengthy period of time. And in those cases, you then want to make your value add and continued growth clear through indicating the kind of initiatives, projects, assignments that you have held while you were there, not just doing the same thing year after year after year, 10 times over. So remember that also in terms of how you present yourself in the workspace. Two more things that I want to note for you here is you are also a reflection of your employer. So even when a new employer are considering you, if your LinkedIn profile looks proper and you are representing an organization, because to an extent you are representing an organization when you're on LinkedIn and your name is as part of their employee or their staff count, um, it makes sense that it looks as good as possible because it does them well and it does their name well. These are the type of people that we have got on board. The other thing you want to make very sure of is that your grammar and your spelling and your writing is very well done and that you pay attention to detail. Again, sloppy profile, impression as a sloppy worker. And I know for me, I get so close to documents that I work with and that I edit that I make mistakes. And I go back to it a week or two later and I realize, oh my goodness, I've sent this out to a client and there's a spelling error or grammar mistakes on it or something like that. So make sure that you send it out to someone to read it on your behalf, two or three people that you know are strong in that, and they will pick up on those things because oftentimes we get too close to the documents we are writing and we read over mistakes that we have made. So have that double checked. You can always then go in and edit and correct as you need to. It's really only the last 10, 12 years of your career that's most important here. If it is relevant in terms of your growth, you can indicate earlier positions, but you don't really need to give much detail there. What you want to do is that the time period that you have selected to indicate on LinkedIn, so say you do talk about the last 15 years, make sure there's no gap in employment there. So if there was a time where you were retrenched, you weren't working, make sure that you account for that through, indicating consulting work or something like that, just that it runs chronologically, that there's not big glaring gaps in terms of what you have done and where you have worked for the whole period that you have got indicated on LinkedIn. The education sector is another one that's very important. And here you want to make sure you have got institution, the full name of your qualification, and also the period that you were there clearly indicated. You want to use this education section for your highest qualifications and your most relevant qualifications. So, again, referring to mining, which is the area that I work in at the moment mostly, there would be a lot of safety courses and all kinds of other things that you would be doing. Those don't fit in here. You can add them on your CV, but for these purposes, they're not relevant. You want to have degrees. If you are a qualified artisan, for example, you want to make sure that it's clear that you're a fully qualified trade tested artisan. If you have got any specific certifications, you want to indicate that. If you are a certificated engineer, you want to make sure it's indicated. You don't just want to put your degree or your national diploma down there. So all of those higher level qualifications and certifications, that's weighty. You want to put those in here. And also, if you are, for example, busy completing a higher level degree or an honors or a master's or a doctorate or anything like that, or you're busy with your government certificate of competency, you want to indicate that there so that people know that's in progress, because sometimes that would be sufficient in the role that they are recruiting for, even if you haven't got it completed, and it would be a preference for them. Um, so, oftentimes when I look through profiles, people leave this area quite undone, so they might maybe just put the qualification on, but we don't know which institution, whether it's actually a reputable university. We don't know when it was done. And so that fuzziness, again, just doesn't translate well on a professional network. So you want to make it all look as good as you can. And then when you are done with that and you've got your certifications and licenses in, we go into the skills and endorsements area. Now, this used to be a very important area because LinkedIn, in terms of ranking your profile higher, would be looking in their algorithm and when they are doing these searches for profiles, they would be looking for at least 100, which is the golden number of endorsements for a specific skill, which would then make you rank higher. At the moment, it seems a little bit unclear. No one is 100% sure whether LinkedIn still uses that to rank profiles or not so much, but it makes sense for you to work that in any case. So the skills and endorsements, you can see I've got 99 plus, so I'm very safe on executive search. I'm a little bit low on recruiting. I'm quite low on mining, which I would like to be higher on, because that's the area in which I focus here, although I'm not someone who works in the mining industry itself as an engineer or a mine manager or something like that. But then you can see when you click on it, there's a lot of other things here. So yes, I've done treasury placements, but that's not my key focus area. Screening, really, I do things that are much more complicated than that. So I don't really want to be endorsed as much for those. So I've got the option to actually select which ones I want to rank highest. And so you can see I've got 28 for mining and I've got 36 for technical recruiting here, because I'm able to actually shift those and push the ones that I want to be known for more up to the top. So think of it, for example, if you are a chief operations officer of a major mining company, certainly being able to work on Excel is not your biggest skill. But sometimes the way it works on LinkedIn, Excel might be the thing that you keep on getting endorsed for, because people see that come up and they just do the click and endorse you on your first three skills. So make sure that you see what you are being endorsed for there. And then the quickest way for you to actually get some endorsements done is for you to endorse others. So do that and then ask them if they won't just, endorse you quickly for your skills. It's very quick to do. There's a little table that comes up on the side. You click, 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 say someone is highly skilled and it's done, So it's really takes a minute to do, if that long. And so that you want to work on and make sure the endorsements are in place. And then this last section is very, 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 very important. The recommendation section really are like mini references that people write of you in the workplace. And when someone is looking, at your profile and they can see all of these good things that others are saying about working with you, it already puts them in a positive frame of mind when they look at your profile and what you can come and do for them. So when you ask for recommendations, which you have the option here to ask for a recommendation, you simply click on that. You can then look up your, so whoever you want to, if I start with that, all my quizzes will come up here and I can click who I want to ask for a recommendation. And then it runs me through let's just do that. And then it tells me in what position. So it gives me the options of where I've worked there. And then it goes on to next. And then there's a little table. So let's just do that maybe quickly. To show you. Okay, and then it's now not giving me the next as an option. Okay, select the relationship. So say he was a client, and then I could go to next, and then there's just a note that comes up naturally from them. Could you write me a recommendation? That's generally sufficient, because what you would have done before you actually ask for these recommendations is to contact your person that you want to ask for a recommendation directly via phone or via email and ask them if they would be willing to write a recommendation for you. That way, when the request does come through, they are already prepared for that, and you can explain to them it just needs to be, a few lines. It doesn't have to be very in detail or complex, but it just, again, does a lot for getting you to rank higher in searches when done on LinkedIn. You also have the option for people literally to go and click directly on your profile and give a recommendation. And when that is done either of these ways, the recommendation will come through to you. You will be able to view it and see whether you actually want to post it or not. So that's actually very nice that you can just see what's being written before it goes public onto your profile. And again, you want to do the same thing where you are giving recommendations in return, where people have earned that. That's also part of your body of work here. So, if you give that positive feedback out, you can also expect to get more of that positive feedback back. And that's a nice place for people to go and just see, do you know what you are doing? Are you trustworthy? Are you professional in what you are doing? You want to make sure that in that you keep it updated. So not just with your recommendations, but really throughout your whole profile. You probably want to relook at every 6 months or so, make sure it's up to date, work on your recommendations and make sure you keep that fairly regularly through your career, so that it doesn't just seem that suddenly in 2020 you became a superstar, but really from 2010 onwards you did nothing ever that was good, So think of that and kind of have something coming in fairly regularly. I mean, I'm very guilty of that, because I used to have ones in the early days when I, paid more attention to setting up my LinkedIn profile. So there were things here around 2012 and 2011. And then I left it and I didn't ask anyone for anything. Then I had something in 2013, some things in 2014, and then I left it for a long time. And only this year I got back to ask some people if they would do recommendations for me again, because many people won't do it unless you ask them for it. So make sure that you just put some time into that every now and again, and get a recommendation. If you know you've done good work, ask someone if they would be willing to endorse you for that. You also, with these recommendations, want to make sure. Oh, what did I want to say now? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Let me just quickly check for you. Um, Oh yeah, you want to have your recommendations with a bit of a mix of profiles. So, if you are in a senior level position within a certain industry, you most of your recommendations you would want to have from people that were more senior that you reported to, direct managers or people that you work closely with who are more senior than you. Then you want to have one or two from peers or colleagues, and then maybe one or two from people that reported into you who can actually speak about you as a manager or a leader in that space. And that should have you well covered then from all the different perspectives that people could want some information on you as a person in the workspace. Okay. So that would be the key parts of optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Of course, belonging to groups or interests, that also helps you to be more visible on LinkedIn. Then to make LinkedIn work for you, you really need to be active on the platform. And we will talk more about using that to your advantage and how to work that. It does take attention and work in another session. But these should have your profile very well prepared and very good for people to notice you and to work with you when they are doing searches, and for your profile to come up. And, even if you are not actively in the market, you don't know when very new attractive opportunities might come up. And having a very professional looking optimized LinkedIn profile could just get you into touch with people in spaces that you never thought you would. Or, if things change tomorrow, I mean, a lot of people were hit recently with layoffs and different things like that. And now suddenly you need to scramble to get connections on LinkedIn, to get your profile updated, and to make yourself presentable to the market again. Whereas if that's something that you just schedule for yourself to do fairly regularly, once or twice a year, and keep it updated with your newest projects, then it's not such a big job to do it when it does become necessary. And of course, your key projects and biggest successes are all very fresh in your mind. So when you display those, then, it's hot off the press and it's new things, and it talks in terms of how dynamic you are in the workspace and what you are doing, and you don't forget them 6 months down the line or a year down the line. So much has happened, you can't even remember what you really did that was great in that space. So this is as far as we're going today. We will talk about connections and contacts later on, but just very briefly, you want to build your network of connections. You want to make sure that your connections are people that are in your industry, that are relevant to your kind of space. So you don't just want to randomly connect to absolutely anybody in any space. You want to keep it a little bit tighter within your areas of expertise and within your market. And remember also, because LinkedIn work on those layers, so it's a network. So everyone that is first connections to me, I can see their first connections and their so their first connections, which would then be my second grade connections. And even if I don't have a LinkedIn paid account like the sales nav, which I do have, so I can see more profiles. But even if you don't have a LinkedIn paid account, you will still be able to ask to connect to those second degree connections. But the third degree connections, you won't have access to them. So obviously, the broader your connections are, the more visible you are on LinkedIn, and the more people you will be able to connect to. When you do send a connection request, it's good to just make a very short note on that. So, for example, we are both specialists in the mining sector, would like to connect to you. Or if it's someone that you've worked with previously, put a little reminder in there for them. We used to be colleagues at Anglo Gold Ashanti, would love to just, or I'm busy, reconnecting to people, or, getting back into touch with people. And best regards, Hannah. So something short and sweet like that, but just a little reminder for them of where you have worked together or why you would want to connect. And then obviously, if you want to use it more powerfully in terms of new potential work opportunities, we will talk at length in another session about how you are going to optimize that profile. But this should have you off to a very good start with LinkedIn. And I'm wishing you all the best to do a star presentation of yourself here on LinkedIn and have a maximum optimized profile. And we'll talk in the next session about the other things you need to do to present yourself to the market.